Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Outlook Money Insurance Summit. The topic of discussion today is the future of digitalization in insurance, and we have with us eminent industry leaders Vibha Padalkar, MD and CEO, HDFC Life, Mahesh Kumar Sharma, MD and CEO, SBI Life, and Mayank Bathwal, MD and CEO, Aditya Birla Health Insurance. A very happy new year to all of you, and welcome to this summit. And thank you so much for taking out your time for this event at Outlook Money. So today we are discussing digitalization, which is a refrain that we've all been hearing for some time, but it was really during the pandemic that it really played out, especially in the insurance sector. The insurance sector, I believe it has been a bit slow in the uptake of technology if you compare it to, say, the banking sector. But then the first steps have already been taken. And there were some, the bigger strides have also been taken during the COVID period. So digitization, of course, brings efficiency in many ways. So what has been your experience so far? And I would like to start with Vibha, our only woman panelist.
So thank you, Nidhi. We are at an inflection point, and like I joke that never lose a good pandemic. So the insurance sector has been wanting to do a lot of things on the digital platform, and this has accelerated our journey and our delivery in terms of what's happened over the last couple of years. So a lot of us have been moving from paper to digital over the last 7-8 years, like I said, and this has resulted in productivity, outreach to customers, cost, efficiency, and so on. All the good things that digitalization brings. However, now what we are finding is that end to end, we are able to reach the customer and everything else from cradle to grave. If the customer is willing, if the partner is willing, then most of us, or at least the senior players, have all the tools. And that's a good place to be in. And some of the data points in terms of if you were to look at annuity certificates, when senior citizens had to walk into branches, a calendar year of 21, over about 8,000 to 9,000 senior citizens were able to say that, hey, I'm still there. In terms of liveliness authentication, entirely digitally, and a very simple process which when downloaded, a person can reasonably easy in terms of answering of questions, the NLP engines which are getting better and better in terms of being able to satisfy customer queries, handle a lot of the basic level queries. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not only the customers, but also our intermediaries, our partners. So training of agents, getting them licensed, their incentive, their compensation, Uberization in terms of incentives so that they can pick up warmed up leads to be able to satisfy their need in terms of the pipeline, outreach to them, which has been virtually but equally effective. And then the final part of it is in terms of the claims payout. That too has moved to digital. Close to 70% of claims payout, which are non-investigated claims, can be and are today entirely end-to-end digital. So really, there's no part of the insurance life cycle that has not been touched and is very effectively functioning using digital modes.
And do you think that this has primarily happened because of the COVID onset? Like you also said that it was like a blessing in disguise for the insurance sector and various other sectors, in fact, from groceries to everything. A lot of digital uptake has happened in the last 2 years, which was never seen before, really.
So I would say that the acceleration has happened because of COVID, no doubt about it. And there's a knock-on effect. For example, my parents did not believe in buying anything on digital, and because of the lockdown are now reasonably comfortable in giving their credit card number to buy groceries, like you said. So now the customer is moving from one purchase journey to the other, and financial services has a little bit of lag in terms of higher ticket sizes, which is what insurance is, as against smaller ticket transactions that one might do on UPI based transactions. But that journey is inevitable. So it's the acceleration that has happened. Kernel of the idea was certainly there. So we were already converted in our mindset to say this is the way forward. But you often need a catalyst to get out of it. It could be inertia. It could be some of our own beliefs that we can't move, or something is too complex to move. That catalyst has been the pandemic.
Okay, that is an interesting way to put it. That the COVID has really been a catalyst to digitalization in terms of a lot of sectors. What is your take, Mahesh, in terms of what are the kind of efficiencies that digitization has added to this sector, so to say?
So, to begin with, let us take marketing or sales. So as Vibha has rightly said, the leads you can provide processed leads to your distributorship. You can actually use artificial intelligence. You do a lot of analytics on the data that you have, or your partner could be doing it, and then supplying those to their salespeople in the front line. That makes it more efficient. The use of the workforce becomes more efficient. You get people to talk to more people every day. So digitally also, we find that we are able to have, say, customer relations programs with customers entirely digitally. And a person who would probably be able to meet three people in a day, three prospects in a day, today can actually target, say, 20. I mean, there is no limit. You just have to schedule your calls in such a way that you can uh, talk to all of them. And people have become very comfortable with video calls and, taking that kind of a thing. The other efficiency that has been brought in is on the processing. So what happens is that since it is all digital, the looking at papers, for example, scrutinizing documents, it can be done through OCR technology. You can do a lot of things which earlier it used to take a lot of time and people to do. Now you can do with technology. So these bits and pieces have made it very, very efficient. It has increased the efficiency, and you can use the same workforce, the same number of people more optimally. To do more business, to target more business, and also reach further. For example, now distance is not a thing. When you are talking about meeting a customer, you don't need to really think about where he is. You can meet a customer sitting here in Mumbai. You can talk to a customer in Bangalore or in Delhi or wherever. So this has actually sort of opened a lot of other avenues and a lot of efficiency in that way also.
So that's an interesting point, especially because, especially when it comes to life insurance, a face-to-face, interaction has been the traditional method of buying and selling. And you were saying that, of course, this digitalization has increased that scope of a person, physically going to a customer and selling, say, one policy, maybe doing a lot more now since the video thing has come in. But what about the personalization of that whole experience of meeting someone, getting convinced about the features of a policy or other things that are important about you? Because awareness is also a thing about life insurance that is not all pervasive in India right now. So how do you think that gets tackled?
So face to face, if you remember earlier, when you wanted to talk to your uncle in the US, you would actually talk over the phone, and you would not get the experience of actually meeting or looking at him. But now, if he's got a new house, decorated Christmas tree, or snow in his yard or something, you are part of it. So you can experience it almost as if you are there. The only thing is that you won't probably feel the Chicago cold. So it's as simple as that. It's the same thing with customers. When you're pitching a product, you are explaining the product, you can see the facial expressions, you can understand what questions are coming up, you can see that the person is accepting what you're saying, or he's got some objection coming up. So it's just like a conversation that you would have face to face. It has only enhanced the way you do it. It has cut down on the travel time. It has also cut down on all the other distractions. A person, when you go and meet a person face to face, there could be so many distractions. There would be phone calls and this and that. But right now, that person is glued to your his mobile screen, and he's talking to you only. So it's in a way it's almost as good as a personal or physical face to face. The only thing is that obviously there will be some shortcomings. in a solution which is not exactly the same as before, but there are some advantages, there are some obvious disadvantages. You can't see the person in full, you can't see, for example, in insurance, they say that the basic underwriting is done by the person who's actually sourcing the proposal. So he has to take a look at the customer and judge for himself whether he's an insurable life. So in that respect, the video does have its shortcoming, but then, like I said, it has all these plus points. So I don't think it sort of takes away from that process. The technology actually delivers much more than one would expect.
So you do think it's completely replaceable in a way? I mean, if not immediately, in the future, in the next few years, it's that
it will enhance. It will enhance the whole way of doing things. I don't think physical meetings are going to go away. There will be a lot of people who will not be comfortable with this technology, with using this technology, and then obviously the old way. We keep seeing with each wave, we see that the old way of doing things does come in again. So whenever there is a big wave and there are a lot of cases, you see digital usage going up and all these technologies being used for sourcing, etc. But then when it subsides, people actually go around and meet face to face, like old times. So the business also, there is a kind of a cycle out there. But having said that, this experience and this knowledge and this new way of doing things is not going to go away. Maybe it'll exist along with the face to face for quite some time, and then maybe it'll go forward. Maybe face to face becomes less, and technology takes over more. So it's quite possible that you have all these solutions.
Okay, so I'll come to Mayank now. So in life insurance, of course, the selling, the face-to-face, all of those issues are there. But in general insurance, a lot of innovations have been seen. Digitization has, made a lot of difference in many things, like say post-processing, if I could put it like that. So for example, your online motor inspections to online medical certificate submissions for health insurance. So what are your views in terms of efficiencies? How has it added the whole digitization process?
Yeah, firstly, thank you, Nidhi, for this opportunity. And, I think many of the points that my colleagues Mahesh and Vibha mentioned are relevant for the general insurance and health insurance category as well. But let me just add to a few things to what they have said. You spoke about elements of personalization. I think there are 3-4 areas where digital definitely adds a lot of strength. One is the whole element of personalization. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then there is the whole thing of scalability. What you can do at scale versus versus the cost of doing at scale in a physical environment. Then there's a whole issue of transparency that it creates, which is always good for the customer, because a lot of what happens in a digital environment is known to a lot more stakeholders than what happens face to face. Now, you spoke about stuff like motor inspection. We are talking of in digital world concepts like telematics. In health insurance, we are this whole wellness driven model where the whole using digital, you can track customers, how physically active they are, what is their health, and then you can reward customers, which is something that the regulations allow. So we are able to do allow customers to be incentivized. Now, could that have happened in physical environment at scale? No, but digitization, the digital world definitely helps there. Plus, customers of today, they are used to interacting at their time in their way, and not when the supplier or the offerer wants, right? So in a digital world, you can actually do that, which is technically you can talk to the customer in the language that they want, when they want, on the platform they want. So all of those are possible, and that what it allows let's say us as an insurance company is to do scale engagement. So now I can talk to Vibha in a different language, Mahesh in a different language, Nidhi in a different, because that's what you prefer. In physical, it's very difficult to you can still do it on a call center, but that's still very expensive. In digital, you can do all of that, right? The other thing is this whole transparency it creates, because the conversation I'm having, can be technically is available, it's on record versus that. So that creates more trust. Our business is about trust. And so, ultimately anything that adds to that element of trust is always going to be good for the business. And of course, it creates so many more new opportunities to reach consumers, at scale where they are through newer set of offerings, which are possible. Instead of the whole full-fledged product, you can go and do, much more customized offerings for customers. So I think it opens up a plethora of opportunities for the category, right from revenue enhancement, productivity increase, reduction of cost, scale engagement, better retention, etc., etc. So I think it's really, really powerful, and I agree with Vibha that it was always there, maybe in a little bit more or less in different categories, but the acceleration that has happened is here to stay. I think we have probably achieved in a year which would have probably taken 5, 6, 10 years, as they say. But it's here. I think we have to accept it as a reality.
That's true. Vibha, coming to you, claim settlement is the real test when it comes to digitization, really, because you did mention that a lot of it is being settled digitally and it's seamless. But ease of buying is of course good for customers, but it's also good for the agents who are selling. But it's the claims part that really matters to the customers, because it is a pain point a lot of times. We all know that. And I'm assuming during the COVID period, there would have been a lot of claims, more claims than usual, perhaps. So how has that experience been, according to you? And what is the way forward on that?
So a lot of good things happening in this area, Nidhi. And I'll just give you some numbers. So about 70% of our claims are what we call low complexity claims. So these are non-investigated, non-early claims, relatively simple. And that's where it's not only digital, because that is the medium, but also with the use of analytics. So whether it's OCR or bureau pings and other forms of analytics, there's IIB. We are able to settle these claims within the 24-hour turnaround period. And that individual who's the claimant can just upload this and send WhatsApp images and various other forms of digital engagement to be able to lodge that claim. And relatively intuitive and easy to in terms of documentation required, and the money directly goes to the claimant within this kind of turnaround time. And 95% of these low complexity claims are settled in a day, like I mentioned. Now, frauds can also happen, and that's where it is that that balance between not paying out to the fraudsters. How do you use analytics? At the same time, how do you not inconvenience even a single honest claimant? Because this is really the proof of why we are in this business. That through both analytics combined with digital allows us to do that more efficiently. But what we are finding today is that more and more people, again, perhaps the acceleration that we talked about due to the pandemic, more and more people want to lodge their claims, especially the simpler claims, sitting in the comfort of their homes. Yes, they might be guided. We also have simple videos, self-help videos because now we have moved. I was reading yesterday that cookbooks are on their way out, and people just look at YouTube videos on every recipe that they want to do, or even how to peel something or how to do. So that's maybe it's holistically changing. Mm-hmm. So in whatever medium the customer wants to do and transact, we should be present in that medium. I don't think we can say that this is the only right thing, or you should do only this, or you should read offline and then come online. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And so it starts becoming entirely interconnected when we talk about digital. And there's also this hybrid of people who have been entirely physical but are now moving to digital. So they're somewhere in between, and various percentages of their digital age. And that's where, as insurers, we need to be present in every medium like this, and every medium needs to be as intuitive. And there will be a phase for quite some time, I believe, wherein there will be hybrid ways also coexisting quite peacefully with the only digital medium. And that's how I see it. Coming back to your question on claims, I find that more and more people are claiming through the digital medium and using self-help or assisted lodging of claims, but through digital. So that's picking up in a big way. And as we also use our NLP, we are also able to learn as to what is it that the customer, where does the customer get stuck? How do we have more and more regional languages? Mayank mentioned this very effectively, which we would have struggled earlier in the paper age, to have in regional languages at every level on the claims process. Yes, we do, but when the process changes or there's some regulatory changes, then you might not be up to date and so on. Now we don't struggle with any of that, not just in written regional, but also voice-led, like I said, YouTube videos that can be in any number of regional languages for people to understand and make it very simple.
Okay, so Mahesh, on a similar strain, you were saying that digitization has, it has obviously made things efficient. There are more efficiencies in the system. But do you think the claim settlement can also be? You think digital can make a difference in making it smoother and easing the process further? Because in terms of follow-ups or other things that especially in cases which need investigation, like Vibha was saying that the cases that do not need investigation are easier done on the digital. But what about the cases that do need investigation? How will digitalization help or deal with those cases?
See, digitalization will help the initial process of lodging the claim. So it will definitely help in getting the documents across. You don't need to actually go to a branch or meet a person to actually lodge the claim papers. So you can upload the KYC of the nominee, the policy document or whatever is there. All those things, whatever is required for lodging a claim, can be lodged digitally. Okay, so that is the first part of it. Now coming to investigations, obviously investigations. It is a reality. We have a lot of claims which may not be on the face of it looking to be genuine claims, or there could be some cases which are coming in too early after the purchase of the policy, so that could need some investigation. So these cases will be there, but there also a lot of technology is available. Like for example, when you want to check the policy terms and all, so IIB's got a database which can be checked. Even the KYC that is being submitted, most of the KYC is being done digitally. So eKYC, CKYC, you got video KYC, so many ways you can get the KYC done. So that is something which definitely helps the claim process also, because the nominee's KYC is also something which you need to see, and that can be done digitally. So the entire process, even in investigation, for example, you can actually consult with your medical expert or your doctor or the hospital or something. You can talk to them digitally. I mean, you can get to them without actually somebody having to go to the hospital for the records. So all these are possible. Obviously, all these are not happening immediately. It will take some time for many of these things to actually move completely into a very optimal kind of solution. So that is where we are headed. But the process that we started, say about 4 or 5 years before the pandemic struck, it has definitely become very, 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 it has very entrenched right now. And now nobody is talking about, whether we need to go digital or not. In each process, we have digital enablement, and claims is not, like for example, once all these things are submitted and even the reports that we get from the investigators, that can be done digitally, and then that cuts down on a lot of time. So all these things really help in the claims process too.
Okay. That's good to hear, but I'm sure that last mile thing that, even with doctors, when you go for an online consultation sometimes, so it's online, and the next level is when you need that investigation, you do need to kind of connect offline as well, even now. So I guess the same will be the case for claims as of now. and we'll see how it goes, and we'll come back to it later on where it's going, and what is the future, the path, and where it will lead to. So Mayank, you were talking about the customization of products, and we know that the customers these days, there is not so much brand loyalty anymore. It's more about if they like a product at one place, they would go to that place. So it's not so much about the brand rather than it is for the product. So in that sense, how do you think digitization is making a difference, and what are the kind of products that you see on the anvil that will attract more, especially the younger customers who may be new to insurance, and they may be willing to experiment more and look at new kind of products?
Yeah, so I think that let me give you a concrete example of like using digitization, what's happening in the health insurance space. So typically health insurance, has traditionally been sold to the category which is maybe cross 30, 32, 33. They have a family, probably either have a kid or planning for a kid, and are seeing their parents having some health conditions, etc. Right? If you go and talk to a young people like yourself, I mean, normally you'll end up saying that, hey, I'm healthy, I'm young, I don't need health insurance, or maybe I'm covered by my corporate, I don't need to buy, right? I mean, I don't see anything coming to me in return from this offering. So why should I buy this? Now come, the ability to use technology and digital, and you say that, okay, what if we reward you for staying healthy? You feel you are healthy, so why don't you stay healthy, and we'll reward you for that, and we'll offer you monetary benefit for that, which is something that health insurance regulations allow in the country. And therefore, leveraging technology, everyone has a smartphone today, more or less, and you can using your smartphone, I can track how many steps you're walking, if you can get a health checkup done at low cost, we know your health condition, and we'll reward you if you're staying healthy. Now suddenly, for that customer who's now going to be more engaged with the offering, there's something in it, because I'm getting access to good health and healthcare ecosystem, wellness, etc. And I'm getting rewarded for something doing about myself. Now suddenly the product is actually giving me something in return. Now, could it have happened in a completely physical environment? No. How will you go and count the number of steps that a person is walking, or how healthy or physically fit he or she is, just by physical interaction? It's not possible, right? Digital environment has given us an ability to do that. I mean, I can even track if the customer has gone and visited a gym, because of technology and digitization today. So I think all of those are things that are now making it possible to get a very large part of Indian consumers who are staying away from health insurance. This is just one example of what innovation, technology using digital, etc. can do. And unfortunately, and kudos to the regulator that they allow products which encourage good health and wellness. Let me give you another example. Now today, many customers actually think of, should I buy small? Should I buy, can I test out? Can I try out? Now, we tried something with, Ola. So, people who were saying that, okay, should I drive Ola? If I drive Ola, and, in the first wave, they said that, what if I get COVID because, I'm in, potential touch with the driver, etc., even with whatever. So, Ola brought a COVID cover along with us, which said, okay, for next 15 days, you're covered with Ola. With every ride, you opt in and you get so now suddenly, the small, a period cover, the customer is opting in, getting a insurance cover for a small period, paying a very small amount of money. They're used to it. Now, can you make that customer realize the value and sell the next product? Possibly, yes. So I think need-based, for the purpose, insurance, I think short-term insurance, all of those, creating contextual insurance. When the customer is doing something, customer is buying mobile, general insurance is done. Okay, now you buy mobile insurance along with it. Just do a tick and opt in for that mobile insurance when you're buying a mobile phone on the, on let's say an Amazon site. So I think these are all possibilities, because now the good thing that digital does, it gives you access to customer when they are actually doing transaction on the digital world, which is, at scale. And if you can somehow find a way to kind of even touch them at that stage, make your product relevant to them at that stage, you suddenly find them, being more open to that, rather than expecting them to come and, visit your site and buy a product on their own. So I think these are all possibilities which I feel have continued to get opened up. The good thing is now IRDA allows sandbox. So you can use sandbox process to come up with these potential opportunities, and try out. And if they're successful, the authority will explore, allowing them for regular products. So I think both the regulatory environment is allowing that, consumer is willing to, try that. So I think it's for us to now make sure that we do full justice to this opportunity.
Right, right. So, so our discussion mostly is, of course, digitization, its efficiencies and all. But I also feel that some of these, in fact, most of these are something that are more accessible to an urban population. People living in the metros, bigger cities, who have access to digitization, so to say. What do you think has been the reach in tier 2, tier 3 cities, even rural areas where the maybe the access to digitization is not that high, and I believe that is also a segment that may help push insurance penetration further. I mean, anyone can take this question.
Sure. So I
So,
can start off.
yeah, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I were to look at our overall, at an overall number, it has settled down somewhere wherein tier 2 is about between a fourth to a fifth of our business. Tier 3 is about 15 to 20%. And metros continue to do well. The purchasing power in metros, especially when you have a higher ticket size in metros. But when you look in terms of number of policy or NOP terms, it's slightly more skewed, or the growth is coming from non-metros. So the numbers of lives we are covering is more in terms of growth, especially in channels like agency channel. If I were to look at our agency channel, in NOP terms, the tier 3 locations is contributing over 40%, unlike at a overall company level on a overall EPI basis. So that is very encouraging, which means that while the ticket sizes might be a shade lower, but more and more lives are being covered. And also it is possible that people start off with a smaller outlay, test the waters because perhaps new to insurance, and then might start increasing their outlay towards insurance. Another triangulation is in terms of, if you see what was happening with mutual funds maybe 7-8 years ago, it was largely metro-centric. And today, when you juxtapose their offering with digital offering and the growth of the likes of several digital only securities offerings or trading platforms, that is when it has really taken off in terms of non-metros, people having very small outlays, average outlays of 5,000 or 10,000 rupees, sitting at home during the pandemic, opening an account which is free of charge and dabbling in, and markets were doing very well. And that was another catalyst for that sector. So I think like that, this is definitely going to be a catalyst when people perhaps start small, realize that how easy it is for them to buy a policy entirely online or digital or any other mode that is non-physical, and hopefully come up the ladder on that. So I'm reasonably optimistic about people in smaller towns, and that's exactly the reason we acquired Exide Life, which is their strength in the non-metros, which will complement our strength in the metros. And that's exactly to your question, because we do see the opportunity there.
So, but my other question is that, when it comes to mutual funds, even equity investments, there is a lot of buzz in smaller towns and all that we have seen in the last year. But do you think that, since you mentioned that, do you think that similar kind of a similar kind of excitement we'll see in the insurance part also? Because insurance is something that a lot of people don't really understand. Mutual funds is something, or equity is something that maybe erroneously, but a lot of people may assume that it'll make them immediate money, or especially with the markets high and all of that. But how do we see that analogy in insurance also?
Yeah, I think we are comparing different life cycles. That industry has been around slightly longer. And also the fact is that insurance products perhaps might take a little bit longer for people to understand. It's more a mindset than anything else. Term products, for example, have become fairly topical. But even simple savings products which are mimicking an SIP but would also have a life cover and so on, would also give the liquidity of a fixed deposit. So there are a lot of product innovations that augur well, keeping in mind the first time buyer who might be transacting for the first time digital, transacting for the first time buying a life insurance policy, transacting for the first time himself or herself without an agent or an intermediary. So you needed really two or three things to come together for the person to make that purchase. Although the person might have that intention in his or her mind, but for that to be translated into action execution, you need that simplicity, you need the product, you need simple ways in which you can communicate to that individual. And now I think all of us have worked towards it, wherein we do believe that all those aspects are there. And it's a question of a penny drop moment when the individual starts realizing that it is really fairly simple and also need of the hour.
Okay. So another question I had this regarding digitalization, coming back to it, is that, this whole pain that we saw in terms of integration with hospitals when it came to COVID claims, a lot of health insurance, etc. I believe this integration with third party vendors like hospitals, or maybe an Uber, or maybe an Ola, or other companies like that, that is also very important to make it really come together. So how do you think we can move forward on that, or what is it that the insurance industry can ensure to make that handshake happen more seamlessly?
Let me try and take that, just to the hospital, and then maybe my co-panelists can pick up in the context of life. So, very important point. So, and it is relevant to your other question earlier on claims experience also. So, if I take international experiences like our joint venture partners from South Africa, when I look at the claims experience there for consumers, 95% of their claims is actually paperless and humanless, which means it is just flowing from the provider, and it could be a hospital, a pharmacy, a doctor, a diagnostic, just in such deep integration between them through a pipe that information is flowing through, it is auto adjudicated, and the customer just gets their money. I mean, they don't have to pay money. It's cashless, right? Now, can we get that in India? Of course we can. I mean, but question is, how much time will it take? Sometimes some of these things happen very fast in India when the whole process starts. We have seen that in Aadhaar and a few other things. Now, what is required is, because today what happens between hospitals and insurance companies in health insurance is that documents are flowing through in paper form, or at best in scan, or scan, or you may have portals where the information is being fed. But why should we not have complete integration? Now, one good development that happened during COVID time is that this independent body Swasth, which is actually a collection of different players in the healthcare ecosystem, right, from providers to other health tech to insurance companies. So Swasth has now created the standards for what is called a health claims platform, which that platform can sit between the healthcare providers and the insurance companies to get the two of them to integrate. Now imagine, let's say if my company wants to go and integrate with 1,000 hospitals, it's a mammoth task. Similarly, for a hospital to integrate with 25 providers is a mammoth task. But if there's one player in between the whole exchange where I integrate and then the hospital integrates, the whole process becomes so much more seamless, right? Now that is becoming a potential possibility because the standards for that has been created by Swasth. The National Health Agency is creating that from the Ayushman Bharat scheme. That is completely, there's no paper involved. So I think that kind of integration is what we'll see in future as the technology setup for that is being created. And that will not only increase or improve consumer experience, but make the whole product also more affordable, because you can remove the inefficient costs of administration and also the wastages that typically happen in health insurance, where sometimes there's overcharging, etc. You have a way to know that and make it more affordable and much better experience for the consumer finally.
So basically in life insurance, that kind of a thing is really non-existent. But then we have partners, we have banks, we have other partners with whom we do the selling and the servicing. So there also the same thing applies, the integration, wherever there is integration, we are able to service the customers smoothly. We are able to sell easily to the customers. For example, with SBI, we have the YONO app. So on the YONO app, we are able to sell protection policies to our customers. And this is seamless. This can happen through 3 clicks. And similarly, when claims come in, even for example, the PMJJBY claims that come in, that the whole thing flows through the bank to write back to the company along with the documents that are required, and the claims are processed immediately. So, that kind of integration is happening. What we need to see is how we can take it to the next level, how to include more and more items which can cover more and more pain points of the customers, and reduce the pain, the time taken, the number of items that are required to be done, so number of steps that are required to be done. So we need to see how we can solve some of these issues.
Okay. So I'm going back to what Vibha was mentioning about that whole SIP thing, and how things can be, how customers can be made to understand the insurance product, etc. So a lot of there were some reports recently which also said that some of the insurance policies are being sold as SIPs. So I haven't looked at it in detail, but I believe that a lot of things. So a lot of people, they don't even understand what SIPs are, whether it's mutual funds or life insurance. Perhaps they are looking at it, looking at a monthly premium as an SIP. So where do you think that is happening, or is it happening at all? What is your take on that? And
So what we do for this is that we have a process where before issuing a policy, we have a pre-issuance welcome call, and I think now the regulators have also made it a mandatory thing. So we have a person calling the customer and asking, detailing the features of the product and asking whether he has actually opted for this product, and only when we get a yes for that, do we issue the policy. So there is, the mis-selling has been brought down because of that. There is no way a person can sell a policy saying that it's something else, a mutual fund or an SIP or a fixed deposit or something. These are all probably things of the past. Most of the players in the industry are working towards some solution or the other. We have a very strong solution. So we have the PIWC calling, and we also have the Insta PIWC, where there is a message that goes out to the customer, and he can actually see on the screen what product he has bought, and there is a voiceover in the language of his choice. The screen also will display the terms of the product in the language of his choice, and there is a voiceover saying that you have purchase this product, which is for say 5 years, 10 years, and you have to pay premiums every year. This is the amount that you'll have to pay, and this is the cover that you get, and that kind of thing. So unless you get through that and that person agrees to it, so we are building in all those safeguards. So I don't think that a person, it's easy to sell an insurance product as an SIP or something.
Okay. So, no, so the other thing is that maybe the confusion of understanding, because, a lot of buyers may not be aware. So what I see is that, a lot of things are going out as SIPs, which may not definitely. So I am putting the blame on, not the blame really, but, lack of knowledge in terms of the buyers also, because, they would just go, they do not want to get into, a lot of them do want to get into, but a lot of them do not want to know what is an SIP, whether it's mutual fund, whether it's insurance, and they would go ahead and anything that requires a regular payment for them, that may be they may get confused with it and take it as an SIP, and then they see those ads saying SIPs, mutual fund sahi and all of that. But the thing is that they may be going into a completely different product without even knowing about it. So that is something
you are absolutely right. So that is what I was talking about, the education part of it and also the confirmation part of it. So what we do is that as a company, we detail the features of the product at every level. When we are selling it, in the brochures, in the posters, everywhere, it is very clearly mentioned that it is an insurance product. And then plus, like I said, even if the customer is under a misimpression about the product, we ask him that these are the features of the product, and has he understood that this is an insurance product which has these features? And only if he says, yes, I understand, do we go ahead and sell it. Now, if somebody after all this will still buy a wrong policy, there is something, there's only that much we can do. We can only try to improve the process going forward on trying to improve the language, trying to get him, make it as simple as possible, deliver it in his own language. So, in fact, when people buy products from us, we also send them a product video explaining that this is a product that you are purchasing. So this is something which we have started doing, and we will, take it to a level where the video explains most of the things that need to be said. Now, having said that, if somebody will buy an insurance policy thinking that it is an SIP, after all these safeguards, then, really speaking, we can only keep improving the process, and can't really talk for each and every person out there.
Yeah, that I can understand. That, of course, nobody can guarantee each and every person. What is your take, Vibha, on this kind of things that may be happening in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, I of course, there will always be some percentage of people who say just didn't know, but so I want to push back a little bit, wherein to all the points that Mahesh made, I completely agree with it, and we spend more time figuring out what variant of mobile phone that we want than what insurance policy so, and this is I'm talking only about so-called educated people. I often despair when educated people, friends and extended family say, I thought it was a fixed deposit. Now, after so many attempts of reaching out in simple language, cutting out, so we have moved as an industry from having perhaps a lot of complicated language that we use to fairly customer friendly language, and also thanks to the regulator. And this outreach call, when people don't pick up, people still say yes to everything and say, I was told to say yes to everything, which they would not do. Would they say yes to everything when, they have been sold a phone that they did not want to buy, and still believing that it's going to morph into the phone that they thought they wanted to buy? So those sorts of things, I think, and somewhere I think that education, I do believe, has to start from our school, wherein in 11th and 12th, we have every other kind of subject. But I think 101 of financial management for them as an individual is required. You have graduates who don't understand or don't know the difference between debt and equity. Simple things, forget even SIP, but even basic things like that. So I think as a nation, on one side, we are a digital powerhouse and really zooming across. And on the other side, basic financial knowledge is still very, very much wanting. So I think we need to have a multi-pronged approach, and one can't just say insurers are mis-selling or mutual funds are mis-selling. It has to be multi-pronged, wherein every attempt is made to simplify, to explain. At the same time, buyer beware. The buyer has to give certain level of mind share to understanding what he or she is buying.
Okay, taking your point, but I also believe that there is, of course, there are steps being taken in this regard, but the insurance industry as a whole also, there has to be more, not just insurance, even mutual funds, the whole financial industry, I think, has to work towards this whole financial literacy drive. Like you said, that, it will be helpful if, such kind of courses are introduced to kids early on, and things might fall into place, at least for the next generation, if not this one, in that case. Now coming to another question, and Mayank, it is for you. We are seeing when it comes to when we are talking about digitalization, we have seen a lot of innovations, like I mentioned earlier, and you also detailed about it, the motor insurance, even travel insurance. We have seen many innovations with these small trip, bite-sized insurance, and all of those things coming in. But when we talk about fire and property insurance, I don't hear a lot of buzz or a lot of things happening around those verticals. In fact, I am not very sure about how much the awareness is on those levels, and especially with India and the world over, going through so many natural calamities. Apart from COVID was one which was mostly health related, but there are so many natural calamities that hit India. There are floods in Orissa and Kerala on almost on a regular basis. So, what's your take on that? As in, uh, what can you do to make it more popular, and what are the innovations that can be brought along to make these, products also more attractive to customers?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just a caveat. I'm not an expert on general, but let me try and share based on my understanding of the category. So, like other categories, there is I would say from a personal perspective, home insurance. From a perspective of let's say MSME, fire and burglary insurance, etc., property insurance for their shops and other. I think there's a huge, I would say, hugely underpenetrated area. And the question again goes back to this whole point about insurance, that we see that this mindset of that if I'm putting money, I want something in return. And I think that is a mindset which is typically coming in the way of all lines of insurance, where the risk element comes in. And the same is the case in both at a personal level and at a from an institution entity level, when people don't end up buying home, let's say home insurance for fire, burglary and other damages, etc. And I think that there has been an attempt on this from the category to create more awareness, but I think there's of course a need for this sustained one is awareness from consumer, from creating more awareness from the category perspective. I think maybe second opportunity is of course from a product perspective, that can it be can there be something which can be done to make it seemingly more relevant for consumers. And I it's an ongoing task. If you look at in the order of hierarchy of need, Nidhi, if life and health, insurance itself, you see the current penetration level. For a consumer to kind of start thinking of home insurance, I'm not surprised that it goes down to the level that it is today, that where the penetration is so abysmal. And it's only when people end up incurring those costs, unfortunately, there are pockets of parts of India like Chennai, etc., where we have seen these damages at scale, and people have suffered large losses. It's also about distribution. I think what I find encouraging is that lately I'm seeing that there are some of these distribution entities using even digital capabilities who are now trying to become more niche in terms of reaching out to these specific segments. Sometime back I heard about a player who's trying to meet the need of these MSMEs, which is specifically including both their the regular part insurance about health and life, but also their insurance for their business, including fire, burglary, etc. So sometimes it's both. It's about the product, of course, consumer awareness, but it's also how do you kind of get to them? What is the intermediation ability? Because when it's very small, sometimes the cost of distribution becomes very high. So maybe digital can also help create newer forms and maybe more cost-effective forms of distribution, which I'm hoping can also emerge for these specific segment and their needs, including the fire and property insurance that you mentioned. And I mean, the other thing that is happening is that, and this is more in the larger thing, I mean, I'm just wondering that with stuff like IoT and all coming in, sensor technology and all, I mean, can you use sensor technology to make some of these products more interesting and maybe more effective for the consumers?
So what are the new, that reminds me of the question, what are the new technologies that are really coming into insurance? Like there was some buzz about blockchain technology coming in.
Yeah, I mean, see, all technology is relevant, right? Whether you talk of AI, whether you talk of IoT, whether you sensor technology, whether you talk of blockchain, all of them in their own forms are relevant, right? I mean, AI technology now using data and analytics, as we are gathering more data, so AI becomes extremely relevant in terms of being able to predict, and take action earlier. Blockchain in health insurance, for example, one of the things that has been discussed is about when you're creating the whole. I spoke about the whole health claims platform between the healthcare and the insurers. One of the technology that can be used is blockchain technology, in the way that creating that platform itself. I mean, that's one of the option. because there's data flowing in between the two systems, and it's a good use case. Similarly, you can use blockchain technology for if there is, let's say, common consumer. Government is talking about this whole national digital health mission. So as health data starts getting digitized, is there a role that blockchain can play where this data with completely and it's a very sensitive data, health data, so can completely secure data can be used by the insurers using that technology platform to, let's say, do underwriting, claims settlement, etc. So I think there are various use cases. First and foremost is to get the data available for using this technology. So I think that we are now starting to get close to those potential use cases.
Okay, thank you. So we are quite running out of time now. So one concluding question to all of you would be that these are, of course, the first steps. We are seeing the insurance industry take the first steps, but what are the gaps that you see currently, and what do you think are the next steps? And we can start with Vibha again.
So one of the major impediments, or if we had it, a lot of what we're talking about, technology, blockchain, how we can give seamless integration with partner and so on, can happen if we have equivalent of what we have on financial KYC, if we can have that for medical KYC. Understand in terms of data protection and so on, but I still think pinging as a repository is possible with customer consent. I'll give you an example. Today, we have over 40 new ecosystem partners. You mentioned, so we have all the cab hailing companies to health companies like the Health Springs of this world, to the Paytms, and then you have the Airtels of this world. Now, they're all doing their own thing. They're not selling insurance. So how do we embed ourselves in that journey? The missing link there is anonymity of the customer, because he or she is just transacting. We can ping Aadhaar and so on, but we can't ping. We really have no clue about their medical status. So if we can have a repository, just taking the points that Mayank was making a little further, that if there is a repository, it could be voluntary, it could be mandated, but voluntary certainly in terms of allowing companies to ping. Then our underwriting can get more nuanced. The turnaround time will be a lot more, because right now we're trying to figure out this elephant and we're seeing different parts of it without being able to see the whole. And what that does is the so-called younger or good lives are subsidizing the lives that might have some comorbidity or the other. While we can get, like in the West, we can get a lot more refined, more nuanced, sharply pricing it in terms of, depending on who is the end customer, and so on. And also then digital works very well, because then it's a express highway, because you have all the relevant bits of information to make a decision, make a quote, and conclude that purchase. So that is one missing piece. Another missing piece is in terms of technology and innovation. And RBI, for example, has recently, there was a mention made by them as to how there already exists a core team that looks at how technology can be used to further the whole aspect of banking. Like that, today we are not allowed to invest in, say, 100% subsidiary, which is a fintech company, or not even 100%, say, a meaningful stake. Can't invest more than 10%. Now that is required because a lot of things you're testing it out. You also want to test it out with some startups, for example. It might work, it might not work. There are ways and means of, for example, carving it out and making that investment from shareholders fund. Maybe we can not have that investment back solvency. Usually these investments are not very material, but I'm just saying, even if it's a 10 crore investment, it doesn't back the solvency fund. So what that will do is just take this to a different level, and again be a catalyst, an accelerator, wherein a lot of new things can be tried out by insurers. So these two bits, I think, would help. Not that there is a sandbox. There are various attempts at doing it. It has happened more in the health space than it has in the life space. Yes, our regulator has been extremely supportive during the pandemic to allow non-wet signature and so on. But I think a lot more can be done, given that India is now ripe for us to move meaningfully in the next step, for us to be able to use. And then overlay that with, you mentioned blockchain, AI, ML, how do we use medical diagnostics? How do we interpret with the data and analytics? All of that is there. But if we don't solve, especially for the medical underwriting piece, I think we will just be half as effective and not fully unleash our potential.
Right. So, Mahesh, what are your
Yeah.
views on this? Also, I would
I agree.
like
I
to.
agree with Vibha. Some of the things are very, very critical to, like she said rightly, the regulator has done a lot of things to make life easier during the COVID, and a lot of new things have been allowed. But I think the pace can pick up further now. Now that we have so many technologies available, one of the things that we would probably need is a database somewhere. There are bits and available in bits and pieces of the people who are insured, and again with consent, and with the adequate safeguards, it should be accessible to the insurers, who are all insured and what kind of policies they've taken, because that is a very critical part of the underwriting that the companies do, and this can actually give us the leeway to give very fine pricing to people who have an excellent track record, and also to price the risks that we have in other categories better. So that is something which we need, and also the flexibility to to price the products according to that once this is available, once this becomes available. Like, for example, if you look at in the West, you have the insurance company putting a video camera on your car and determining your driving behavior, and then giving you either a discount or a higher rate depending on how you drive. So they go as deep as that. So here,
Right.
Right now, most of the life insurance companies are guessing. It's all based on self-declaration and some kind of 1-point tests where you do it on a particular day. For example, a diabetic who's actually has his sugar under control, how do you find out that he's diabetic? So these are some of the issues, and I think a medical database and also a database of people who are insured, all that thing, and the access to that with adequate safeguards is one of the things which I think would really help to take this sector forward, because then what will happen is that people who have got better insurable lives will get much better prices for getting insured, and that itself would be a very good incentive for people across to get insured.
So
I just want to make a final point here. Another point which will help is for all insurers to be mandated to join and share data via IIB or any other common portal, because otherwise we are not really joining hands. We need to join hands to weed out fraud. At the same time, make the journey and the experience very seamless for the honest person who is wanting to buy insurance. It will just not help if certain few companies join, some companies don't join. It's not going to help. And that's where I typically don't like mandating, but I think in this case, as a sector, we need to join hands.
I think that's a very pertinent point that, the whole industry needs to work in tandem on this to get to a point where everybody benefits, customers to the industry, of course. Mayank, what would you say are the gaps and what are the next steps?
Yeah, I think I'll bucket them probably in three heads, right? I mean, it starts with what can we do to create more awareness, and I think let's say that, because that's an ongoing task. I mean, if your penetration level, if in India, for example, if you've got less than 4 crore retail health insurance policies, in a population of 140 crores where people have bought on their own, I mean, clearly there's a task to be done. At all levels. And I'm hoping that stuff like Ayushman Bharat creates more awareness, where the government plays a role of a payer. The NHA platform is now being looked at for potentially creating, an offering for missing middle. So I think on awareness, again, awareness is an area where, on Vibha's point, collaboration has to happen at an industry level. I mean, no one player can do this job on their own. I mean, it is a effect, like the mutual fund guys have done a wonderful job through mutual fund Sahi. I think life and health GI have started, but I think it hasn't really continued. That's an opportunity for us to play our own role in creating more awareness. That's one piece. The second one is relevance for consumers, that even if I'm aware Am I really treating the product as something that is relevant for me and I'm finding it? So I think consistent product innovation, maybe creating product for specific use, specific segments, get them to use, experience it, and then upgrade, etc. So I think that is one area when I spoke about that briefly earlier, that has to be an ongoing area consistently. And we have to make it more segmented. In a country of our size, you can't have one product or two product which is going to meet the requirements. Different, whether it's by age, whether it's gender, whether it's by geography, whether it's by life stage, etc., etc. It's an ongoing task which has to be done by us, and I think we'll have to keep looking at the opportunities. Digital has definitely created more. And the last one is experience, because if I have bought a product, I'll be continuing to stay with it or be a word of mouth advocate for it if my experience is good. And I think again, more and more work. Digital has of course made it a lot more enabling, because I think we can make it much more simpler at their time and much more cost effective, create more convenience for customers. But it's an ongoing thing. How do you make the product more engaging? Typically insurance products tend to be very reactive. You buy it, then you renew it, and then forget about it. But that's not how you can build relationship with the consumers. You have to have in health, for example, around the theme of health, we can consistently engage with consumers. There is an opportunity, because that helps the business also. So I think it's we've come a long way, but this industry is still not just about 2 decades old. So I think long way to go ahead. But I'm optimistic. I think we'll keep moving and chugging along well.
I think on that note, I think we all are optimistic, because insurance is something that, we all also always tell our readers that it's a must-have product, whether it's life insurance, whether it's health insurance, and a lot of others also. And on that note, we'll sum up the session. And thank you so much, all of you, for this lively discussion. Vibha, Mahesh, and Mayank, thanks a lot to be part of this.
Thank you, Nidhi, and thanks to the Outlook group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.